What's up guys? In this video I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do if I was faced with the situation where I had a 9-to-5 job from Monday to Friday. In my situation, I'm quite fortunate. I get to eat and train pretty much whenever I like, okay? It's what I do for a living. But most people who have a regular job, they don't have that luxury, okay? They have to kind of fit in their training around their schedule. And most people do have a very busy schedule. So, first things first, you're gonna have to ask yourself, when is it you're gonna train? Most people will have three options. It's either gonna be first thing in the morning before work, it would either be at lunchtime, you know, in between work, or in the evening after work. With the help of my trusty board, I've laid out pretty much what I would do in 3 different scenarios. So for me personally, I find that my sweet spot tends to be between 11 and 3. That's when I like to train. That's when I'm most motivated and I feel as though my sessions are most productive. Other people, you know, it's gonna vary. Okay, when it comes to me, if I was to train first thing in the morning, particularly if I have to get up at like a crack of dawn before work, it just doesn't work for me. I'm still half asleep. It takes me a few hours to get myself going. So here we go, this is the morning scenario. This isn't something I would do, but if the only option was to train first thing in the morning, I would wake up. 2 things I'll pretty much always do when I wake up. First thing, I'll rehydrate myself with some water, and I'll make myself a coffee if I've got time. If I'm in a massive rush, then I'll get a coffee on the go. Hydrating first thing is always key. So the protein and oatmeal combination is going to slowly release energy over the next few hours. It's going to provide me with protein and it's also going to be pretty light on the stomach. This will allow me to perform at my very best when in the gym, so I can lift pretty much as heavy as possible for a decent amount of time, which would probably be like an hour or something. I could train fasted if I wanted to, but from my experience of training fasted, I feel as though, you know, 20-30 minutes in, I'm completely goosed and I have no energy left for the rest of the session, which isn't ideal because the whole idea is, you know, if you want to build muscle, you need enough kind of energy and fuel in order for you to lift a heavy weight. So you either have your proteins and carbs, or if you are going to train fasted, I would probably have some intra-workout carbohydrates midway through the session. So either some kind of pre-made formula or some maltodextrin with BCAAs or dextrose, something like that. After the workout, I would probably have a protein shake and some sugary carbs such as fruit, something that's going to be digested pretty quickly. After having the post-workout meal, that'll probably do me for an hour or so, maybe even 3 hours. And then I would have my first meal of the day, like first proper meal of the day. And that will consist of, again, maybe some form of carbohydrates, protein, maybe some fats as well. And you can see in the afternoon, I may have a little bit of a snack around 3 o'clock. What it would consist of would really depend upon my goals and, you know, my calorie targets for the day. But since, you know, I've trained in the morning, the majority of my carbs are going to be consumed around the morning. For the rest of the day, it's really going to be proteins and fats until the evening, when I would then have maybe some more carbohydrates and protein just to, you know, relax me a little bit and to ensure that I'll get a good night's sleep, because I find that having some carbs before going to bed really does help with me getting the best night's sleep possible. One of the things that's going to vary from individual to individual is how active you are at work. So if you've got quite a labor-intensive job, which actually means that you're going to burn more calories throughout the day, you're probably going to have to consume more throughout the day as well. Whereas, you know, in comparison to that, there's a lot of people who might just go to work and literally sit at a desk all day and literally just not move. So again, you have to kind of factor this in and adjust your nutrition intake based on your activity level. So this is a scenario if I was training midday. This would probably be my ideal scenario. I would prefer this the most. What I would do, I'd wake up, as always, I'd have some water, maybe a quick coffee to wake myself up. And for the majority of the morning, up until maybe 10 or 11, I would fast, okay? I find that I'm not like a big eater first thing in the morning, and I'm generally pretty focused and alert when I'm fasted. So what I would do is I'd break the fast around 10, 11 o'clock and have my first meal. This would consist of proteins and fats. I always like to have proteins and fats in the morning, just a personal preference, nothing to do with fat loss or muscle gain again. Then I'd have a pre-workout snack meal, whatever that might be, around maybe 11, 12 o'clock, an hour or so after I had first meal. Then I would train at around 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you know, depending upon when I could get the time to do it. After that, I'd have post-workout protein shake, some sugary carbs, and then I would have my second meal around 2 or 3 o'clock, so probably an hour or so after I train, and that would be mainly proteins and carbohydrates once again. Then for the rest of the day, I'll probably have a snack around 6 o'clock after work and between my last meal of the day, probably proteins and fats this time, and then last meal of the day, again, proteins and carbs because I like to have carbs before going to bed. Now, if I was working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, what I would do, I'd probably have 1 or 2 days during the week which I would either have a complete rest or do some light cardio or core. I would save the biggest, most demanding sessions for the weekend. Okay, when I've had more sleep, I'm probably going to consume more food because I like to eat out on the weekend, and I generally have more time and focus which I can commit to the session itself. So Saturday and Sunday, big sessions, demanding sessions, maybe even train twice, depends. This would probably be my preferred option if I couldn't get the opportunity to train at lunchtime. So what I would do, same as around midday training, I would fast until mid-morning. I'd have my first meal of the day, proteins and fats, and again, since I'm not going to be training or exercising, I'd probably continue to have proteins and fats throughout the day, right up until meal 2 here around 4 or 5 o'clock, which is going to be before the gym session. So an hour, 2 hours before the gym, get some carbs into the system, get myself fully fueled and prepared for a big session, go and train, then have proteins and carbs after the workout. And then pretty much after I've had my shake and my sugary carbs, I would then have my final meal of the day. This would probably be the biggest meal of the day, which would consist mainly of proteins and carbohydrates. Now, with each of these scenarios, the macros and the calorie targets for the day are going to remain the same. It's just going to be the timings which are going to vary. As you can see, the majority of the carbohydrates are consumed around the workout, so before, maybe during, and then after. Now, the last time I was in a job where I couldn't pick the hours I was working was when I was a manager at Hollister. Now, that's like the sister company of Abercrombie & Fitch, but I spent 1.5 years, 1.5 glorious years there in the dark cave that is Hollister. Now, fair play to them, they provided me with a job and everything, thank you for that, but I was not very happy there. Retail ain't my thing. But I was in this situation where my schedule was literally all over the place. I didn't know anything beyond a week in advance. And due to the fact it was retail, sometimes I would do a 7 till 4 shift. Sometimes I would do a 10 till 7. Sometimes I would do a 1 till 10. Sometimes I would even do a 5 till 2 in the morning, okay? It was grim, okay? The problem with that was my sleeping was all over the place. There was no set routine, which, yes, sometimes I had the benefit of maybe training in the morning, have a bit of a lie-in, but then it meant, finishing work later, which isn't really ideal. Now, this particular shop was located in a shopping mall, which also had a very good gym inside it as well. So what I did was I would go and train there at my lunch break, and this was the best formula for me. I didn't really do much in my lunch break, so it just made sense to get my training out of the way then when I was kind of in the mood to actually train. Now, when I started here, I didn't meal prep. I actually ate out quite a lot of the time. There was a big Tesco's around the corner, and I would always go there. I'd get half a chicken, some salad, and I always tried to kind of keep it at that. But due to the fact that it was retail, it was very stressful, I wasn't necessarily happy. There was some bad days. There was a lot of bad days. What do you do when you have a bad day? You often look for food to make yourself feel better and give yourself a little bit of a boost. Now, whenever I had those bad days, I would often go into the supermarket, and after I'd got my half chicken and veg, whatever it might be, I always walked past the bakery section and decided to give myself a little bit of a treat. And sometimes these treats, they got a little bit out of hand, particularly on the bad days. And that's the problem if you don't prep your food, because there will be bad days. There'll be days when motivation is low, and there'll be days where you might see something and think, you know what, I deserve that. And you completely go off your plan for the day. And if you've already done that at lunchtime, it's more than likely in the evening you'll do the same thing again. And if you do that midweek, it's probably going to repeat the day after that, and then before you know it, your whole week's just gone completely to shit. So I always advise to prep your food and take it with you to work. So there we go, that's what I would do if I had a 9 to 5 job. For you guys out there, it really does just depend upon the individual, your goals, your training availability, what the nature of your job is like, and a load of other factors. You just have to find a formula or combination which kind of works best for you, which you can stick to in the long run, okay? Which allows you to give your very best in your workouts, allows you to recover, and allows you to stay motivated and to enjoy the journey, okay? That is the key. If you've got any questions, just drop a message below. I'll do my best to get back to you. For all online coaching inquiries and customized programs, check out my website, www.mikethurston.co.uk. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon.